Greetings, brothers and sisters. Hello and welcome back to Witches of the Moon. I'm Eva Maria, your Monday hostess for this season. And this week, for season 8, week 11, this is Choose Your Own Topic week among the hosts here. And I have chosen my topic to be critical thinking as it relates to spiritual and magical pursuits. And the reason I've chosen this topic is because I think it is one that is not discussed very much, but it is so necessary, so beneficial, so crucial, to the process of learning and growth. In discussing this topic, I wanted to broach it from the standpoint of being a chaote. I wanted to utilize some of these 6 core principles. 4 out of 6 of the 6 core principles of chaos actually have a lot to say about the topic that I am discussing. And for those of you who are not familiar with the 6 core principles of chaos, what they are, chaos magicians, such as myself, we adopt 6 principles as a loose framework by which we choose to study and practice and live too, ideally. These are like guides, but they're not like solid, like, you must do it this way, but they are suggestions that we find helpful. They provide a sort of compass to us, and then from there we kind of just go crazy. But they're very helpful, I have found. So these 4 out of 6 principles are deconditioning, the avoidance of dogma, prizing personal experience over secondhand information, and the pursuit of gnosis. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to touch upon what these particular core principles of chaos magic have to teach us about critical thinking in terms of spiritual and or magical pursuit. Now, before I go much further, I should also touch upon what exactly is critical thinking. Well, critical thinking is the ability to sort of separate the wheat from the chaff, separate facts from untruths, or separate what is useful from what is not. The ability to do this independently and from your own point of view, to be able to really analyze things and distill what you encounter into something a lot more useful. Now, the first of the 4 of 6 core principles that really have something to say to us about critical thinking, about the role of critical thinking, the importance of critical thinking, is deconditioning. We are conditioned as we grow, as we develop as people, from infancy on up. We're conditioned by agents of socialization, be they, for example, family, society, whatever society we happen to grow up in, our school environments, whatever, all the things we are exposed to, all the people we are exposed to, that sort of give us messages about, for example, morals, values, right and wrong, just various things. We are led to believe certain things. We are sort of fed certain basic understandings that are acceptable or unacceptable in society. We are sort of exposed to the particular culture, whatever that happens to be, that we were raised in. And the idea of what it is to decondition oneself is to come from a place of unbias, to start from zero, to wipe the slate clean. And the reason why this is very important is that bias is limiting. Bias feeds ignorance. Because if you are biased in a particular way, if your thoughts are bent a certain way, then you are less likely to entertain other possibilities, other potential things that may be counter to what you have always been told. So it is important to be open. And this is, I think, the foundation to critical thinking. You know, it's important to set aside things that you hold to be true when you are analyzing things. You know, for example, let's say you're reading an article online, or you're reading something in a book, and the author or the speaker, if it's, let's say you're watching a show, the speaker is clearly biased. Or let's say you're reading something, an article or a book, and the author is clearly biased. Well, their bias is going to color the information that you get. Just like if you have bias of your own, your bias is going to color the understandings that you come to, and the whole concept of critical thinking is to not limit yourself, but to open yourself so that you can arrive at greater understandings, so that you can challenge the sort of headspace you're at, the emotional place you're at, the physical space you're at, so that you can really move beyond what you know and what you've experienced thus far, and perhaps know more, learn more, experience more. And that's how you grow. From that, you grow as a person. With that said, the flip side of the coin, the alternative, is to accept things blindly, or to accept things, again, with bias. And the second of the 4 of 6 core principles that I want to sort of touch upon in speaking about critical thinking is the avoidance of dogma. As chaos magicians, we hold this very, very important, because, again, dogma limits. Dogma feeds ignorance. Dogma is something that is held to be true, or something that is said to be done a certain way, without foundation of explanation, without grounds. You're just sort of told, just do this, or just believe this is just the way, and that's just the way we do it. But you're not really given a why or a how. And this is something that not only raises a red flag, but can create many problems. It's bad to adhere to dogma, for the reason that if you do what you are told without question, you will only be a parrot. You will only mimic things. You will only be going through the motions. You will gain nothing. You'll not learn or grow. The concept of avoiding dogma, the concept before that I spoke of deconditioning, the whole concept behind these is to throw the floodgates open and let understanding come. Imagine, for example, if you were back in grammar school, or if you were in middle school or high school, let's say. Let's say your teachers just told you that math problem on the board, just memorize it. I'm not going to tell you how it works. I'm not going to tell you why or what it's based on. Just know it. Well, you probably wouldn't learn very much. And the same concept holds true to being told, just do this. Just do this, just follow this, just know this. That doesn't help you. If people tell you, this crystal, its properties are this, and that's just the way, that's not helping you very much. It's not. That's dogma. And personally, as a Chaote, I choose to avoid dogma. I choose to avoid bias as much as possible, because, again, they feed ignorance. They don't help you on your journey. They hold you in place. Now, let's move right along. The next of the core principles that I would like to touch upon that really have something to teach us is the principle that states that you should prize personal experience over secondhand information. This is because how do you know something is true unless you have tested it? Critical thinking is so important when you are learning about spiritual concepts and ideas or practices, or when you are learning about magical ideas or practices or concepts, because again, if you don't understand how they work, if you just do them because you were told through some secondhand source, or if you just arrived at that information through some secondhand source and you just run with it, how do you know, first of all, if that source is true? And how do you know if that source has given you something that will work for you? Because the fact of the matter is, one size does not fit all. So it is important to critically think about the information that comes to us from secondhand sources. It is important not just to critically think about them, but to test the information, that comes from those sources, to test what we are being told, to see if it is for us, to see if there is a better way for us to do, X, Y, and Z that we've been told or that we've read. And finally, I wanted to talk about the principle that encourages the pursuit of gnosis. Many of us who practice alternative faith, many of us who explore the spiritual, many of us who practice the occult, many magical practitioners among us, we do pursue gnosis. Gnosis is a cognizance that arises from within. Usually it arises through trance, some sort of trance state or altered state, often brought about by excitatory or inhibitory states. Excitatory states are states of sort of frenzy or how do I put it? Almost tension building up to a point of release. This can be drumming, dancing, sex, things like that. Or gnosis can come from inhibitory states, as I've said. Things like meditation, things like maybe vision questing, so on and so forth. But the thing with gnosis is that, just like other forms of information, it's important to understand the information that arises, the cognizance that arises, the knowing. It is important to question it. It is important to explore it, to research it, to meditate on it, so that you can sort of peel away the layers of what you've been shown or what you've arrived at, what has come to the surface, to gain greater understanding and to grow from what you have been shown, to test the truth of it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, just because something comes to you does not necessarily mean it's always true. The mind can be a very tricky place. The mind can show us things that we should take with a grain of salt. Because the mind, it originates from I'm going to gather to guess. It originates somehow from a physical organ in the body, and if that physical organ may potentially be malfunctioning, or if there should be some condition affecting it, potentially then you could arrive at the conclusion that the cognizance that may arise from your pursuit of gnosis may or may not be accurate. So it is important to critically think about that too. Basically, what I'm telling you here in this video is, and this particularly applies to those who are newer to the fold, who are so eager to learn that they, a lot of times, will take everything they're told and not question it, because they really have a belief, a faith almost, in those that have gone before them, who've been practicing for much longer. They want to believe that these are elders teaching them very esoteric, traditionally held, like powerful, empowered secrets and so on and so forth, that these people are learned by the virtue of the fact that they've been doing what they've been doing for so long. But that is not always the case, unfortunately. So it is important to decondition yourself, come from a place of unbias. Set your bias aside for a minute, or discard it altogether, ideally. It is important to avoid dogma. There is no right or wrong. It is so important to understand this concept. People that try to shove that down your throat, and I'm going to tell you this, and I will tell you this till my dying day. People that shove that down your throat, there is something wrong with them. I don't know what their deal is. It's just not true. One size does not fit all. Okay? We are all individuals. For example, the clothes we wear doesn't come in one size for everybody for a reason. We're individual. Flavors, tastes, products, there's usually variety. Why? Because we're not all one person built the same way. We all like different things. Different things work for us better. Suffice it to say, one size does not fit all. So why would anyone imagine in spiritual pursuit that one size would fit all? Granted, there is one caveat. There are certain things that are advised because many people, the majority of people, have found certain things to be true. So I'm not saying you shouldn't respect everything. Don't say that everything that everyone says to you is total bullshit. Don't think that. But take it with a grain of salt. If you don't understand something, don't just run with it like running with a pair of scissors. Critically think about it. Research it. That's why people tell you when you're getting into spiritual and or magical pursuits, learn as much as you can. They're not trying to keep you from acting. They're not trying to keep you involved in books for 10 years. They're trying to encourage you to learn as much as possible, to question as much as possible, to explore. Usually in theory, before you jump into practice, have some sort of idea of what it is you're seeking to approach. And ideally, why? How does it work? What's the whole concept behind it? This will help you to be your best self. Now, there are other principles of chaos that I didn't touch upon. The other two are striving for technical excellence. That one sort of bridges everything I've said here. In seeking to be a critically thinking spiritual and or magical practitioner, the whole point of that is to strive for technical excellence, to be the best practitioner that you can be. And then the final of the 6 core principles that I would like to mention here, the one that doesn't so much have to do with my topic in a sense, has to do with utilizing a wide array of techniques. However, it can be tied into what I'm saying. If you take away the fact that, if you glean from this the fact that assuming you critically think, assuming you explore, you research, you grow, you will learn a wider array of techniques and thus can utilize them. You will be able to draw from more. You will have a bigger arsenal of things to draw on, of ways to go about things that you will know and that you will be familiar with and that you will probably be fairly adept at. But in order to get to that place, it takes critical thinking. Don't just be a sheep. Don't just practice dogma. If we practice spiritual pursuits or magical pursuits without question, without critical thinking, then we practice dogma. And as I said before, dogma is limiting. Dogma feeds ignorance. And that is not what you're after. You're not after ignorance. So, I hope I have given you an interesting video. I hope I have made some points. For those of you who have not been very familiar with the 6 core principles of chaos, I hope that I have maybe given you a greater understanding of them, or at least an introduction to them. And yeah, I hope you get a lot from this video. I hope it rolls around in your mental hamster wheel and aids you on your journey going forward. You know, I hope you do try to always bear in mind the importance of critical thinking. Think for yourself. Separate the wheat from the chaff, you know? And with that, I'm going to wish you blessed be and ashe. And until next time, until next week, you all stay awesome. And bye-bye for now.